This video is sponsored by Squarespace. This is the ASUS Vivobook 13 Slate OLED, and it packs in a lot of great features for a very low price tag. But are they making too many compromises to keep that price down? Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and this device is a really interesting one because it comes in at a very good price. It comes packed in with a lot of good things, but are they making too many compromises? Full disclosure, this device was sent to me by ASUS to review, however, my opinions here are my own. Now, as you can see from the video I've shown so far, this is a Surface clone. So it is a tablet Windows laptop. It's got a detachable keyboard. It also has a little detachable magnetic stand along the back that folds out so you can stand it up at different angles. It even folds all the way down to a pretty comfortable drawing angle. This comes in two configurations. The first starts at $599. Now this is a Windows S configuration. And the second configuration starts at $750. But as of today, ASUS is running a deal where it actually costs just as much as the other configuration. What is Windows S, you might be asking? Well, basically it's the same version as Windows, except it only allows you to install Windows apps that are coming from the Windows Store. That eliminates most of the drawing apps you're going to find out there, the cool ones that you want to use, whether we're talking about Photoshop or Clip Studio or Krita. All of those things are out in Windows S mode. Now, fortunately, it's very easy to just jump in there and toggle that off. So why would you want that on in the first place? The main one is it's just a heck of a lot more secure. Spyware, ransomware, that sort of thing, you're not going to be able to download that if you can only download from the Windows Store. And there's a lot of people who really appreciate that. For drawing an illustration, however, I like to open it up. And so you can definitely do that if you go with the lower priced version. However, I think that lower priced version might be really underpowered. For example, it only comes with 4 gigabytes of RAM. It only comes with 128 gigs of storage. If you bump it up to that higher level, which right now they're the same price, I don't know why you wouldn't, all of a sudden you get up to 8 gigabytes of RAM, which you can get away with. And you can also get that at 256 gigs of storage, which makes a big difference. Now, the one that I am testing out here today is the smaller version. It is the one that comes with the S mode, which is kind of a little bit funny because when you look at the pricing page, it comes with a 1-month trial of Creative Cloud for free, which you can't install in S mode. I want to check out what comes in the box because there is a lot of value here. If we're talking about this in terms of a Surface clone, the Microsoft Surface is priced as the tablet itself. The keyboard costs extra, the pen costs extra. Here that's all packed in because you do get that keyboard cover. You do get that magnetic stand. Of course, you get the tablet itself. This has an extra box that also has a pen inside. This is an MPP or Microsoft Pen Protocol powered pen, very similar to older Surfaces. Even though this whole thing is plastic, it feels pretty good. I think it has a nice utilitarian feel to it. It doesn't feel really inexpensive, and I think the majority of that is owed to the OLED screen. These are screens that you tend to see only on higher end devices. Now, this is only full HD, that's 1920 by 1080. It's got a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, which is kind of what you would expect. But because it's OLED, the colors really pop. So the main thing that you're looking at while you're using this device, this screen, looks really good even if it's not a super high res screen. You have 2 USB Type-C slots. You also have a little mini SD card reader along the side. So even if that 256 gigs of storage doesn't sound like much, you can always pop more in there. You also have a headphone jack along the side, and on the other side you have a little loop that your pen slides into. Now the keyboard accessory attaches magnetically and it feels okay. I thought the keys themselves actually felt really good. The mouse trackpad thing was a little kind of plasticky, clicky, but it got the job done. The flappy connecting part that allows it to fold behind the laptop or in front of the laptop to be used as a cover is kind of big. That means that the keyboard is going to flap side to side. The other thing that you're going to notice right away whenever you're trying to carry this or hold this is there's no magnets that hold that keyboard in place when it snaps to the front over the top of the laptop. If there are magnets, they're very weak and you don't notice them. So the keyboard does slide around a lot on top of the screen when you're holding it. Inside, this has an Intel Pentium N6000 quad-core processor. Of course, it only has that 8 gigabytes of RAM, so we're not talking about the most powerful computer in the world. Performance-wise, I thought it did okay. Even though I'm only using the 4 gigabyte model, I thought it was pretty solid. I was definitely noticing every so often where I'd pick a certain brush or something, it would take a second to say, wait, what am I doing? And then the brush would start to draw. This was especially noticeable when I was using brushes with texture or larger brushes or that sort of thing. And once I started to draw with them, the computer would catch up and figured out what was going on. The same thing would happen if I closed a tab on my browser. It was like, wait, what was in that other tab? Oh yeah, now I'm gonna load it back up for you. Even though I knew, a year from now, 2 years from now, if I'm using a lot of drawing applications and this is my main computer, I'm using it a lot for this sort of thing, it is going to feel kind of slow. And that is the big trade-off you're making in price. I wouldn't want to do video editing on this. I wouldn't recommend it for gaming, but for light sketching and that sort of thing, you can get by. So next up, we're going to talk about this pen. But before we do, I want to shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building the ultimate website for your brand or business, and they make it crazy easy to build your site. With the Fluid Engine, Squarespace gives you a next-generation website design system. It's never been easier for anyone to unlock incredible creativity. Starting with a best-in-class website template, you can customize every detail and reimagine with their drag-and-drop technology on mobile and on desktop. Speaking of those custom templates, it is a great place to start your website design. They've got all these categories that you can surf through and pick out the one that best fits your content and your unique needs. Make your idea, your brand, your business stand out online on any device. With their new asset library, you're able to manage all your files from one central hub and use them across the entire Squarespace platform. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to get started, go to squarespace.com/BradColbo to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. So I mentioned at the top, this is a Microsoft Pen Protocol pen. If you've watched a lot of these videos, you may already know what I'm about to say, which is this is only an average pen. It is a battery-powered pen. One of the neater features is that you can slide out the cap, which exposes the USB Type-C port along the side, which allows you to charge it up. It's got a clicky button along the back, and also 2 clicky buttons along the side. And also, as a nice touch, inside the box, there are some different pen tips. Those are H, HB, and B. Those are trying to replicate like pencil hardnesses and the kind of feel that you're going to get. For example, the B is going to be the softest of all of them. The one that comes with the pen by default is a plastic tip. There's not too much rubber to it. That's how they're getting that softer feel with these, is they're adding softer and softer rubber as you go down the line. That's a nice touch. Personally, I don't like those rubber tipped pens. This is just a preference of me. You do get used to them over time. I would rather draw with harder plastic tip styluses just because the rubber, even though it gives you some traction across that smooth glass screen, doesn't really feel quite natural enough to me. The main thing that I run into, and that does start to drive me nuts over time with these kind of pens, is just the pen wobble. Over the years, this has improved. This isn't as good as Microsoft's latest Surface Pen, which is their slim pen, which has really helped that out. Here, this is definitely on par with the older Surface Pen. In fact, when I take the Surface Pen that I've had for years and drag it across the front of the screen, I get the same exact line that I get with the pen that is packed in. The palm rejection is really good with this. The way it senses pressure is really good with this. There's even tilt in this pen now. However, when we get to me trying to create really crisp line work, I have to apply a lot of smoothing to my brush in order to make these things look good. And the more smoothing that you apply to your brush, the less control you have over it. You have to go slower. It's harder to make lines meet at the end, and that sort of thing happens. So I prefer a far more organic brush to something like this. So like I've said in many of my older Surface reviews, the pen gets the job done, but I think there's a lot better stuff out there. So overall, what do I think? It's a mixed bag. On one hand, when you look at that price, I don't expect to be getting something amazing for $600. And I think the package that they put together here, especially since they're including the pen, they're including the keyboard cover, it has that OLED display. It is a really good value for that $600. But when you're talking about pure art and pure illustration, if you're coming from a Wacom tablet or a Huion tablet, or you're coming from an iPad or something like that, you're gonna feel that drop in quality. If you need a Windows computer for school or work or something like that, but you also wanna draw on it and you don't wanna spend a fortune, I think this might be better than maybe buying an older Surface tablet just because the value's there. So I think if you're really pinching pennies and you really can't afford it, I think this works pretty well. However, for most professionals, I think you're going to notice the lack of horsepower and you're going to prefer a better pen. But what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.